Welcome to Empower. I'm glad you're together with us. This is a program where we focus on people and workplace, and we believe that God has a plan for us. And that plan, we really want to fit in it and do what is required of us. And today we continue from where we stopped last week. And I'm not alone. I'm still with my guests.
Wangoi Steve.
Yeah, Wangoi Steve, and I'm Beatrice Chuchu. And we are going to discuss from where we stopped. We started by saying that work is God's design, because God himself started working. Yeah. And that is where we stopped, Wangoi. You remember?
Yes.
We discussed about collaborating with God, you know, or being good stewards, taking responsibility.
Yes.
And there's something that we didn't finalize before we get to the program of the day. We see that after God had worked for the 6 days, the seventh day he rested.
Yes.
And I think this is key point even as we work. You know, because I think, do you have a different view about that? Because I think it's good to rest.
It is very important to pause and rest.
Yeah.
And each one of us, according to the program they have, they should find a day off of rest.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you work continually without rest, your productivity will go down. And you'll not fulfill your purpose.
Yes.
That you'll not reach what God is expecting from you. Yeah, so it's good you take a day and rest.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I think even you realize even the laws of a country, you must rest at least one day. It doesn't have to be a Sunday, because there are some instances where people work on Sundays, because some industries operate throughout. But at least you should get one day rest.
Yes.
The minimum.
One day in 7 days, at least.
To rest.
You rest.
Yes, and we see that from the beginning, and we should value that and ensure that happens.
We should value that, and we should also caution those people that want to rest and rest and rest. Let them see that God worked.
Those who just want to be lazy and just don't work. They want to rest
I'm resting.
Throughout.
So it might not be throughout, but you have a task that you need to accomplish.
Yes.
But you've not accomplished it. You see, God did everything up to the 6th day, then he rested. So it's good also. Don't rest and you've done nothing. You
know, there's something I would mention. When you think about man, the first thing that man did when he was created is rest. That's a discussion for another day. Because man, looking at the way things moved, the man was created on the 6th day, following that without trying to get deeper into anything.
He rested.
And
on the 7th.
The 7th day it was rest.
Yeah.
Then you start working.
Yeah.
So for me, I value rest. Yes. But you need to accomplish and work.
Yeah.
Okay. And today we are looking at something different. That was just to finalize what you are looking at. And looking at God is the one who designed work.
Yes.
And more so, us who are Christians and even those ones who are not really born again, want to take work as worship.
Yes.
Because if God designed it, it should glorify him.
Yeah.
And that should be worship. And I was trying to get some background about the meaning of worship as we get to work as worship. Because I believe in some of these reading some words to understand. And I'll read some 3 definitions here. 2 from the Greek background and 1 from the Hebrew. And the one, it's a word called proskuneo. That's not an English word, it's a Greek word. I don't know if it's pronounced correctly. It's a term commonly used to denote worship and carries the idea of bowing down, paying homage, or showing reverence to a deity. It implies an act of submission and adoration. We also have another word about worship, which is written as, is called eusebeo. It's a term related to piety or godliness, and can be used to describe acts of worship that demonstrate devotion, reverence, and obedience to God. It conveys the idea of living in a manner that is pleasing God. Then you get to a certain word from the Hebrew, avodah, A-V-O-D-A-H, which means worship encompasses the idea of both work. This word avodah encompasses the idea of both work and worship. And I loved this. It can refer to the service or work done in the context of worship, such as offering sacrifices, performing religious duties, but it has another element that can back our discussion also. It highlights the connection between one's daily activities and their worship of God. So when you think about worship, when you think about work as worship, you should be able to see the relationship. Looking at it, God who started work. As I work, I'm supposed to be worshiping God. And it's quite interesting. And I want us to look at, when you think about work as worship, look at some key elements that we can put here. As first of all, when you think about the normal worship, even in church, it is God-centered. Worship should be God-centered, not man, not the congregation, but should be God-centered. And because God himself is a recipient of this worship. And we say that worship should be directed to God. So through worship, we acknowledge who God is, his sovereignty, his majesty. He is God. He's nothing else. He's God. And now we want to relate this to work. As we say, work is worship. So how should our work be God-centered? That's my question.
That is very deep, Beatrice. And we have to be intentional about it. Because when it comes to worship, as you have said, all that you are, even the word says that shall worship the Lord your God with all your heart, your strength, everything that you are. So it means when we view work as worship, it means everything, every bit of what we do should, at the end of the day, should adore God. It should please God, because worship also is just pleasing God in our ways. It should acknowledge, we should acknowledge God. So at the end of it all, we should ask ourselves, at the end of the day, I've done this, and this. Did it please God? And we have to be very intentional, because sometimes we just say, I'm just serving my boss. But your boss has also a boss and a boss, and ultimately God is the overall boss. So we have to be very intentional about it.
And something else that I see there is God being the center. You know, there's a song that says, at the center of it all is you that I see. So when I have a job, do I see God in that job? Do I see his providence in that, in the provision in that job? Do I see his hand in that job? How do I see God in this whole thing that I'm doing? Because whatever my work, my hands get to work, it should be centered to God.
It is very important. You have to train your mind. You train your emotions, everything. Because sometimes at workplace we seem to go overboard. Even there's something somebody can do, and later they tell you, I'm a Christian and I'm this, I'm that. And you're like, hey, really? So we should be conscious of ourselves. We should be God conscious, that God is with us everywhere we are. He's there in the office, he's there in the market, he's everywhere. And our goal is to worship him or to please him.
And it's very important, because if I'm going to do it, for example, even someone tells you, oh, I love your job, you should be able to acknowledge that it's God, not really me. Very important. It's God who gave you the energy to do it.
And also the ability, and should come from deep your heart. It should not just be on the lips. You should, when you're alone, you should be able to reflect and see God in whatever you are doing. And you should also be able to see that I've submitted myself to God. I am obeying God. I am hearing God in my work, and I'm pleasing God. I'm complying with God.
And that is why we go back to that question. I know we had asked it some time back in this program. That if Jesus was my boss, would I be doing what I'm doing? Because God is the center of this. So I should do that with that in mind.
And also another question that we lived with, what would Jesus do?
If he was
in this situation.
If he was the HR now, would he do what I'm doing?
And those questions will guide us, and they will lead us to pleasing God. Because every day, And remember, the Spirit of God is present with you.
Yes.
So he'll keep on whispering, you're going off. Wango, you're going off. Wango, you're going off.
Yes.
So are you ready to come back when you're told you're going off? So you should be checking yourself minute by minute.
Wow.
Am I pleasing God? The way I just spoke to that person.
Yes.
Am I pleasing God? Did I just lie to that client? Am I pleasing God?
Yes. Yeah. And I think that brings us to our second point, whereby worship involves relationship and communion. Because as we worship God, there is a relationship between me and him. And this relationship matters a lot. And more so for us who have come to have this relationship with God, and we have this confidence of saying, I'm born again, I believe in Jesus as my Lord and Savior, then there is this need to not forget this relationship in your work. And
remember, you cannot really worship what you don't know. So you should cultivate that relationship with God. Know what God wants. Know what he doesn't want. Know his limits. So when you are in a relationship with somebody, even in marriage or any other relationship, you will get to know that person and to be much easier to please that person or to meet the expectations of you. But when you just meet a stranger, you might think they like this, you offer it, you can even take your time to prepare something, but they just reject it because you are not in a relationship. But when you are you cultivate that relationship with God daily, you'll be able to please him. It will be much easier to walk in his ways.
And I love that because I'm thinking about the fellowship that we have with God. And we are walking day in, day out together. And definitely, if we are in fellowship with him, then we have to fit within his desires, his plans, his everything. And so whatever I'm doing, in whichever sector that God has placed me, whether I'm in a business, I'm dealing with my own business personally, I'm dealing with it, and I'm dealing with clients, I'm handling people, I'm handling suppliers. This relationship between me and Maker should be seen here.
Very true. Very true.
Should be seen here. And that is why we talked last week about the character. Work portrays the character of God. Because he's the first person to start working. So as I have this and as I walk, does this actually show my relationship with God?
What I can say is it's good to have that constant fellowship with God. And the more you commune with God, the more you'll be able to submit to him and also to be in obedience to him. And at the end of it all, you'll be able to fulfill now the purpose.
And the moment you fulfill the purpose of God, God is glorified.
God is glorified, and we can say we have worshipped God.
Amazing, that is good. We need to take a short break, then we'll be back. Thank you for being part of this program. We're taking a short break. Don't go far. We'll be right back. My name is Beatrice Chuchu.